Namaskar, welcome to Wide Angle with Ashok, Vyas, and I take this opportunity of thanking you for making this program so popular and adding to this journey of ascending towards sharing with joy, knowledge, wisdom, information. I also want to thank all my guests and especially the one who is here today. He has served in New Jersey for 8 times as elected assembly member. He has also served for 8 years as consul and mayor of Franklin Township, also as commissioner, and presently he is commissioner emeritus, joining me with so much inquisitiveness and love for the creation as we all would like to have. Upendra Chivukula ji, welcome.
Namaskar, Ashok ji.
So when we say love for the creation, of course, Mother Earth becomes our focus point. So we'll right away jump and share with me very briefly, if you try to compare, as a child, while you were looking at the environment around you, somewhere in India, and now, what major change you observe?
Yeah, when I was growing up in Nellore, Andhra Pradesh, and Chennai, Tamil Nadu, one of the things I saw that we had very limited resources. So we were very careful at how we used our resources. And even when we talk about garbage here, solid waste, what we were trying to, there is a lot of recycling. When you have a newspaper and old newspaper, they'll come and wait and give you some money and take it back.
Yes.
And next thing you know is when you're buying some peanuts or something like that, they will make an envelope and put it and give it to you. So nothing in India, I did not see a lot of things getting thrown away. And the major difference I see is that after coming to United States, and I've been watching, United States is a great country, it's got a lot of resources, but there is a tremendous amount of wastage that takes place. And,
so, let me interrupt you very briefly. And in general, I think psychologically, we as human society have started perceiving if you are in a position to waste. When I say waste, when you are indulging in it, you don't look at it as waste. You feel that there is so much water that I can let it flow. It won't hurt me. It won't, and I can take care of the expenses. Or if there are bulbs lit up whole night, nobody in the room, let it be. So people have started associating this misuse of natural resources also as a sign of their affluence. And I think this is also moving towards India also. You see certain families act in that fashion.
Yeah, I understand. See, look, if you are really affluent, you can always have motion sensors, right? I mean, it's not that, if you are arrogant, you don't care, that's a whole different attitude. If you're affluent, does not mean that you have to be irresponsible. You have to, because any resource, if you look at it, even the water we drink, right, is it's going to go through different things and then it gets recycled. So there is so much of, as they say, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to the other. Resource, air. If you have air, and just because we have, I'm affluent, I start smoking, and then you're not only hurting your health, you're also hurting other people's health. As far as the lights you talked about, light bulbs and all that. So what happens, the energy has to be produced somewhere. Like for example, predominantly we were depending on coal. Then we went to natural gas and some nuclear. Now we are talking about renewable resources because these are fossil, coal and natural gas. We are going to run out of those fuels. As soon as you dig it and use it, you're not only you are polluting, but you're also exhausting. That's why they're called finite resources. So renewable energy, sun and wind and thermal heat, the bio heat, geothermal heat, all those things are renewable. So that is where the focus has shifted. United Nations has talked about, sustainable development goals, which are basically talking about clean water and sanitation. You go to many countries that are developing, the sanitation facilities are limited. In Africa, for example, there are a lot of places there's no water. And yes, in America we have a lot of water. Even America, if you followed the news recently, that there was a fight between California and Arizona with the Colorado water, how much water we have to release, because the water is evaporating. The climate changes that are causing the global temperatures to rise, and water exposed to sun is going to evaporate. And so you are losing a lot of water. And so I think the idea here is that the earth is given to you on a lease. So you have to keep it in a very good shape and pass it on to your next generation. You don't have ownership, so you have to be responsible.
Okay, so
there.
These ideas, or rather these thoughts are good. When I say good, meaning they are valid. But as an individual, many people don't see what they are doing is actually making such a big impact. So let me reverse. Psychology is, you feel that I'm just one person and there's such a huge mass of people, and these are certain decisions which are made by, say, United Nations just has to do what it has to do, and there are certain political leaders, they'll come and have some climate-oriented seminars and they'll make some statements. But so anyway, the bottom line is, as an individual, most of us don't feel the cause and effect relationship between what we are doing and what is actually happening.
Right. That's where the education is needed. I think what it is that, as they say, charity begins at home. So charity begins with you. So if you are responsible and you are able to teach your children and grandchildren to be responsible, I think there will be a tremendous legacy there. So why people don't feel it that way is that, let's say the water is available, you are willing to buy a dollar, bottle of water is about $1 or so, and then when the water bills come from the tap water, when they go $1 higher, people complain, right? With the bottled water, what happens is that the plastic waste is there and it has to be recycled properly. Otherwise, plastic has a very long life cycle, so that it doesn't disintegrate as quickly as paper or some other material. So I think people are realizing now, but there are some people refuse that we don't want to deal with that. So I'm not saying that you have to give up what you're doing, but you be responsible. For example, let's say you are addicted to plastic water bottles. Make sure you recycle them properly, so that way they don't end up in waterways, whether it's the canals or whatever.
Here is a slightly different side of looking at this problem. When something is available, people are using it. If there is a way to come up with an alternative way which substitutes plastic in a way that is biodegradable material, so that we don't have this situation. And allow me also to mention there is staggering statistics data regarding the amount of plastic wastage that is spit out by the sea. And there have been cases where many fish or even
marine life,
huge fish died.
The key here is that, see, we are not the only people on the planet. We have in the water, you have like sea mammals are there. On the land, you have animals, you have plants. So we have to coexist with them. So nobody said we have a monopoly on the earth. So I think that's where the responsibility comes into picture. So one of the things people can think about is that food waste, for example, right? People go to restaurants, and restaurants serve a lot of food, and then what they do, they take a little bit, they leave a lot of it out, and then or they take out with plastic or styrofoam or packages, they take and they throw it in the garbage. So all this wasted food is and the plastics associated with that, they end up in the landfills. We are running out of space in the landfills, so that's why the responsibility comes into picture. And if you look at the world, I think United States and China are 1 and 2 in terms of food wastage. Yeah.
So unpack the word, the term sustainable environment. What is it that you would sustain? So there is some ideal equilibrium as far as environment is concerned that you would sustain. But we are far away from the ideal equilibrium of the cleanliness and sort of healthy environment.
Right. I think remember when we had the pandemic recently, and we were supposed to wash our hands, and the hygiene and the sanitation, they make a big difference with that, right? Because when it affects our health or our mortality, then we are taking care about it. Whatever actions we are doing in terms of excess use of fossil fuels, you are driving in the car, if you can carpool, that will be great. If each person, you're driving these huge SUVs and gas guzzling cars and vans and all, and then what you're doing is you are putting more and more carbon into the air, so which is causing problem. I mean, we all feel how many times you have seen this much of rain, so many flooding. Even California had in a long time. First time they had a mini storm, tropical storm, and desert areas got flooded. We never heard all those things. So what you do, sustainability means what you do will have impact on other people. So what you do is you consume as you need, as much as you need, but not compromising somebody else's, because you have other generations of people who are coming, and if you deprive them of that, you are doing something wrong.
So in order to do something right, I think one item that may help is awareness, right. Education, and I'm thankful to you for feeling about it so strongly. And there have been laws in different states about banning the use of plastic, etc. Where are we in terms of use of plastic as a nation, talking about America?
Yeah, I think United States has a tremendous amount of plastic. Yeah, I think one of the things the states have come about in terms of what is called, now in New Jersey they have banned plastic. When you go to supermarkets, they're not supposed to give you bags. You're supposed to bring recyclable bags yourself. That's one thing. So it's a behavioral change. Initially people complain. Now people are used to it. They try to bring that thing. So why all these plastic bags? Single use. Because after that, you throw it in the garbage. They're not being recycled. One of the challenges we are facing in New Jersey and other states is that what we have is called a single stream recycling, basically one-time use, single use. So and then you are mixing up metals and glass and all those things, and we are not even following the rules where they say make sure the whatever you are trying to recycle is clean, so that way the recycler can use it. So what happened in China used to take our recycled material and now they refused it, so there is no place to go. If there are not enough recycling facilities in the US, so we have to go to the landfills, and I don't think anybody wants a landfill in their backyard. And that's where the environmental justice comes into picture, where people who are poor people, who are financially challenged people, in their backyards you put landfills, which is also not the right thing to do. So there is so much. It's like the food chain. There is also, you have the recycling chain that is taking place, and we have to hold the people accountable and make them responsible for their actions.
So very briefly, making people accountable and making industries also accountable. So from the point of view of making industries accountable, do you see a lot of checks and balances are in place so that we don't end up having more maybe chemicals flowing in the water, or having more polluted air, etc.? Again, different states would have different rules and laws, but how satisfied you are with that?
Yeah. I think U.S. Environmental Protection Agency or EPA makes a lot of the rules for businesses and people and states, and the states make their own laws in terms of the chemical, effluents and dischargeables. All those things, the rules are there, and enforcement is the key here. When you want to make sure, hold the companies accountable for, and a lot of the times the chemical companies, they discharge a lot of things before the laws or after even the laws are there, and they get away with the minimal fines. And this is where the government regulations play a key role, and enforcement of those regulations makes a big difference. And also the EPA has come up with a recycling plan, and they're trying to capture where all the landfills are there, where the recycling facilities are there, and holding the manufacturers accountable. So they want to make sure the manufacturers have certain percent, whether it's 20%, 30%, there are different years are there, and by certain years you have to have this much of recycled content in your product. And so they are all coming. It's just a matter of implementing those programs. And along with that, we also want to make sure that if you are a supplier, you are a manufacturer, and you say, I don't have enough recycled material, and the people who are providing recyclers say, we don't have any buyers. So we need to connect the manufacturers with the recycler suppliers, so that way then we can create that some kind of a mechanism. There is an exchange that takes place, and make it very transparent. You don't want to go through phone calls and all that. Nowadays you have websites are available, you have bots are available. You should be able to do all that. Technologies are available. We have to make sure that we encourage companies as well as various government and various politicians, and make sure that they make the laws that hold everybody accountable.
So talking about accountability and talking about the importance of movement, and movement or transportation involves energy. There is again limited number of oil which we don't realize while we are driving, and then there are economic equations which gets redefined between nations as far as purchasing oil is concerned. But talk to me about so far, how are we doing collectively in our search for alternative energy sources? You mentioned earlier also, but talk to me in the context of the electronic vehicles and all that.
Yeah, I think the transportation is the largest polluter, right? Maybe on the upward of 40% or 50%, depending on where you are, and the pollution because of the oil, petroleum that you are using. And electrification is one way. Like you try to create charging infrastructure, and just like you have gas station, you have the charging stations, and if you create it, and the wait times, it takes a while to charge, and so you have to make it user friendly, driver friendly. You have to do that. So there are a lot of incentives are given at the state level, at the federal level, and Infrastructure Jobs Act, they have created a lot of programs that funds are available. So a lot of states are taking advantage of that, and I know many of my friends bought Teslas and
Yes.
electric cars. I mean, it's not just a showpiece, but it also has some message with that. And so infrastructure is very critical. So electrification is one thing. Now we have trucks. When you look at all the public transportation in the United States can really needs a lot of improvement, because movement of goods, we have to do more movement by rail, because that's where you can save a lot of if you have all these trucks on the road, you have a lot of pollution also happening. So electrification of the trucks and all that is coming. Also hydrogen is also taking, U.S. Department of Energy is investing more than $8 billion in trying to promote hydrogen. But hydrogen is right now is expensive. So you have different types of hydrogen: green hydrogen, which is produced from the renewable resources like wind and solar. And then you have blue hydrogen, which is coming from natural gas, and they separate from the methane, you separate the hydrogen, that is called a blue gas. And then when you use nuclear reactors, trying to do that as a different color for that. So like that, different types of hydrogen is being produced, and we need to find ways to transport hydrogen. And so you should not be burning hydrogen. When you burn hydrogen, again, it creates other problems. So we don't have a breakthrough technology that solve all our problems, but what we are achieving attempting is incremental changes. And it requires a lot of changes in terms of infrastructure. If you look at New Jersey, 70% of the homes are heated with natural gas and 10% with oil. And so that 80% infrastructure, you and I, we have invested so much in our gas furnace or oil furnace, and all those things to be replaced, and we want to change it to electric heat pumps. It costs a lot of investment in infrastructure. So we need to think about how do you transition from where we are today to where we want to go in a smooth, transparent way, and without causing tremendous hardship. There will be hardship, because anytime you talk about change, there will be hardship, because we are used to doing one particular way. It may be different. I think that type of awareness and also that type of investment, and we need to convince people to take this journey. And it's also environment has become very political now, because one party says, hey,
so I'm glad you brought the reference of politics. I was just going to touch this from the point of view of there are certain players, so to say. One is government, one of course educational institutions, one some not-for-profit organizations working as environment warriors, and of course the common folks. But we have seen in different countries there are situations where government is at loggerheads with the environment agencies who are working as not-for-profit and raising voice against certain decisions of government. Now, as in the consumerist society or whatever society, as we hear, consumer is the king, that is applicable from the point of view of government also. If the price rise is too much, government cannot afford to, it is going to topple their democratic chair. So it's a very intricate problem overall. But where I want you to weigh in your thoughts is, everybody is aware what needs to be done. So why don't we come to a consensus and apply our intelligence and energy in the same direction, so that the aim of sustainable environment is achieved?
Yeah, I think it would have been great 30 years ago. Actually, if you look at the Environmental Protection Agency, it was started by a Republican administration. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't believe that, right? I mean, that was...
I will believe you.
Yeah. They were started by, and then of course it became weaker during democratic, then became stronger. So they went through many changes. But I think the critical thing is that we should, the environmental thing is like a movement. It's not, just some yeah. So there are some people are very hardcore. They want to do it this way. And some people say, no, that's not true. That's not the way to do it. You have to look at commercial interests. So a lot of these environmental things, if you only sell them, renewable things and all, if you sell them only as environmental, you will have a lot of opposition. But if you can connect the economic impact of those changes, for example, the new jobs that are created in the new industry, renewable industry, there are so many jobs created in solar or wind, onshore wind and offshore wind and geothermal. So this is a new industry. There are new jobs are coming. Yeah. So that's what we should talk
absolutely.
about.
So Chivukula, very, very valid point. And as we are running out of time, one point that you would like to highlight for our viewers, which would help in achieving the goal of sustainable environment, anyone like a common person who's not an official, neither he's an activist, but the way his lifestyle is, how he can be of help.
Right. For example, I can use we cannot tell some other person how to do my lifestyle. what I do is I don't like to waste water. Okay, even though you pay the same amount as I do, but I don't like to waste water. I am very careful in how I use the water, because for me it's like I worship water. Without water I cannot. 3 days I can. Without water I'm dead. So air is very important. So I don't want to pollute the air. So I don't do certain habits and try to do things in such a way that I don't pollute the water or air.
So I think what we get from you is that we have to figure out how I could be playing the responsible role as a citizen of this earth. And coming from Indian roots, referring to earth as Mother Earth, then there is an additional responsibility to be careful about and considerate about Mother Earth. So, Upendra Chivukula ji, thank you very much, sir. So we talked about healthy environment. It was a healthy conversation with a lot of enlightening insights coming from him. I hope you also enjoyed as I did. Thanking him and thanking all of you for being with us. This is Ashok Vyas. Namaste.